Hello, welcome to Jesus TV. Jesus is in this mess. Jesus in this mess is the name of the program, and this is episode what, 15, something like that, maybe 16, I think. Um, and we're going to see what happens. Emily, tell us what you're going to do on your end.
Okay, well, this is the artwork I started last week. I peeled off some of the stuff, so I'm just gonna peel off all this stuff, and once I take it off, I'll have to put a primer on it. Well, do I have to? I probably should. I don't want it all to fall off. Yeah, so I'll just keep working on layers on here.
Now, will some of that metal stuff stay, or are you going to pull it all off and just leave the texture?
I will probably try to pull it all off. Sometimes though, there's pieces that are like really stuck and they end up becoming part of the piece. It
I
just
see.
depends. It depends, but I usually try to pull them all off. Yeah, I need some more like giant gears. These bike gears are too small. I want like huge gears. That's what I
Oh,
want.
okay. I'll keep an eye out. So do you see Jesus in there yet?
Oh no, no, there's nothing here. This is just this
Yep,
is full on. I
he's in
see a
there.
big mess.
Yep, she's got to create a
Yes.
bigger mess to see
Yeah,
Jesus.
I do have to see a bigger. I do need a bigger mess. It's not messy enough to find Jesus in. Um, the other thing I need to do, so I'll prime it, and I won't be able to. I probably won't even get started with the other like Jesus painting part on it today because once I prime it, I'll probably sand it a little bit because some of these areas like they're way too rough. Like, let me sit down my drink and show you guys. If I so like I don't know if you can see how high that texture is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like that's really deep, and or I might just paint over it and then sand it off later. I kind of do both. We
That's
will just see where we go.
that's
We have kind of a
mud.
shorter, yeah,
That's mud
we have a shorter time
compound.
today. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, joint compound, which I think uh acrylic latex caulk works better. It stays better. However, it's a lot more expensive to do something this big. Like that would probably take me like 5 tubes of caulk.
Right.
And
So you use caulking sometimes,
mhm,
like rubber
yeah,
caulking.
like not rubber. I use a like acrylic latex caulk as
Oh,
long as it's
sure. Yeah.
not silicone. If it's
Uh-huh.
not silicone, silicone, I just hate silicone with a passion, and it's not paintable. Although I probably could do something really cool with that. Also, it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Acrylic latex caulk is only like, I mean, it used to be a lot cheaper, but I think it's about $2 a tube now. I don't
Right.
know. And my wrist gets really tired when I'm trying to like squeeze the caulk
Yeah.
gun.
And so that's you're basically do you ever use what's the stuff that my wife uses? It's you paint it white on
Oh,
what is it?
gesso.
Gesso. Do you ever use gesso?
I do use gesso, but for something this large and for the amount of stuff that I'm using, I would probably use a whole tub of like $50 of gesso.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
this is just a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
Or some of the gesso, the really thick, heavy body gesso is what they call it. Sometimes it's like $100 a gallon.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
whereas I can use, whereas this stuff I use, I mean, it's not like super official. Like I think some art people would look down on it, but I want it to fall apart.
Yes.
And so I use this because it actually gives that more of that
Awesome.
life, I guess is what I would say. And I found that if I use this and I seal it really well, and I do like I did a primer underneath, so it's just like putting it on your wall. I did a primer coat underneath. I put this on. If I do it straight on wood without a primer, it does really fall off. Like I could just touch it and it would fall off.
Nice.
My cat doing? Where's my cat? What the heck? Get down, kitty. He's so. This is Owen. He always hangs out
Hi,
in here when
Owen.
I'm painting, but he usually
Yeah.
stays on the floor. Yeah, you go down. There's not. He's just really curious. You go down. Yeah. So that's kind of how I. That's kind of how I go about it. So I just do lots of layers and lots of ceilings, and it seems to hold pretty well. And I haven't really had any fall
You need to
apart.
turn off that
I
light.
treat them pretty rough. They kind of like hold up. Something like this would actually be really cool if I stuck it outside in like the rain and snow. Probably with
Oh,
this big one. I'd probably experiment with a little one because if this stuff is unprimed, right, water kind of deteriorates it. And so maybe I'll have to try that. Maybe I'll do like a mini one today and stick it out. We're gonna have some snow here, this week and rain. Maybe I'll just stick it out there and leave it out for a while. I just don't want the
awesome.
wood to get like super warped. I want the surface to be warped, but not the wood. But I'll have to
Nice.
experiment with that. We'll
I
see.
like it.
Maybe we'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
it it totally inspires me. It's like if Jesus could have me enter the room of the right artist, you're like you're it. Now I actually know that all artists, well, generally all artists, um, they have to deal with a lot of messiness. Everybody does, and so the fact that um, you embed a lot of messiness into your work, it just thrills me, and it inspires me. I'm going to show you my spoons today. I made Jesus spoons,
Yes.
um,
Oh, I
and
want to see him.
yeah, and so the one I just made, I'm like, oh, it's so rough, and I like it, and I'm like, now others might not. In fact, I got like 50 comments from these people. You'll see the first two spoons, and some people are having fun with it, just roasting me. Others are like, I like it. And so a wide range of comments. And so I'll show those. So I'm going to let you guys talk. I'll go grab those spoons and share that because I want to. Because yeah, all the stuff you talked about, like, oh yeah, that's the kind of art I want to do. Um, Rough art, and that's really what I do. I do a form of performance art. That's what Jesus TV is, and it's like good enough. Like, oh, but your TV station could be even better. Oh, that's okay. If Jonathan and Emily want it to be, that's fine. I think I'm good for the rest of my life. This is Jesus TV. And then if somebody brings something to the table, I'm like, yeah, I don't object to getting more formal if that's what people like. And it just becomes an issue. Can they handle my informality? And you guys can. So that's awesome. Let me go grab those spoons. I'll be back.
Yeah. But I was thinking, Jonathan, I want you to write some poetry for my art so I can post it. I'll send those to you.
Okay. So these ones that we've done in the last
The
few.
past few times. Yeah, I have like 3 of them. I'll send you a good image of them and post those online. And then if people decide that they want them, you get all of us talking about it. You get Jonathan writing about it. And then as always, the proceeds from that art, we split it between the 3 of us and it helps support our channel and kind of support this thing that we're trying to do. So hopefully I can work more on that this week. I don't have a super crazy busy week, so hopefully I can do some work on that stuff.
Sounds good. That'll give me a reason to write something a little bit more formal.
Yeah. See, these are all really stuck. I cut my finger just barely trying to get these off, so I'm like, I'll wear some gloves. Yeah, I need to get some tools and pry these guys off. If I pry them off when they're slightly wet, like the end of the day, the same day, it's a lot easier. But I didn't because I don't know. I just didn't.
I first saw when you put all the lid on.
Sorry, you just cut out right there. What were you saying?
I thought you were going to leave it on when I saw you put all the gears and stuff. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Sure, but both are good. I just I thought it looked really cool. I'm sure it'll look cool with the tech.
I have some done some with leaving them on. I would just need a massive amount of gears. I mean, like I've had years of collecting gears, and it also makes it really heavy. So I always have to try to, I try to watch weight when I am. So I'm grabbing some tools. I try to watch the weight of stuff when I do it. Like this is already 36 by 72 inches, I think. This is already really big and heavy, and it's made out of wood. And so I left all the gears on. I just think it would get really, really heavy.
Yeah, I think you're right. You have to remember people on a wall somewhere.
Yeah, you definitely would have. Yeah, you definitely would have to hang this one in studs. Probably a couple screws and studs is how I would hang this one. I would do like 2 screws, like that. And I definitely would do a stud. I'll probably put, they call them D-rings. I'll probably put D-rings on the back so that it can hang off those versus like I do have hanging wire that can hold like 80 pounds, but I found with big ones like this, it's just really hard to get them to be straight and like all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. This is actually the biggest one I've ever done. The biggest painting I've ever done. Well, besides murals, I've done a ton of mural paintings. But besides like a mural, like just like a full-on painting that I'm working on in my studio and not like on like a location, this is the largest. But yeah, tell me what's going on. Do you have any poems or any stories or things that you want to share or thoughts?
Well, let me think. I've been making a lot of impromptu recordings, and I've started toying with now and then writing poetry, but I'm not actually writing it. So I just turn on the recorder and I go line by line, and I actually kind of like it. One of the things I've done in the past is I've done poetry buskings. So like you go to a public place with a little TV tray and a typewriter, and then so someone will come up and drop money in your hat and say, write me a poem, and you write it impromptu, line by line. So I really kind of enjoy it because it's really raw for one thing, and you can't go back and change anything. And so you just have to go line by line. One came out a couple days ago on my my podcast. It was called A Girl on a Motorcycle or something like that. I was coming back from Tucson and one night, and there was a woman behind me on a motorcycle, and so I pulled out my recorder and just started recording, just line by line. I wrote a poem, and it was so funny. I didn't say this in the poem, but near the end, you can hear this, and that was her passing me. And what I'm talking about is, you could just tell she was in that state of living fast, and it was something beautiful about it. And the sun was setting, so it was like the muse kind of came, and I just thought it was perfect because I wrote it impromptu. It had the literal sounds of the motorcycle that I was writing about in the poem. So so that's kind of fun.
So is that on your podcast now? Is it published on there?
Yesterday or the day before, the episode for yesterday. So
yeah, what's it called? The Girl on the Motorcycle? Oh, okay.
Let me just pull up Google Podcasts real quick, and I'll know in a second.
I actually think that's really fun. I have done some painting on location before. I've never done like the hat thing, but in 2019 I had a bunch of art in the Parade of Homes in Utah County, and I had a table set up and I just had art, and I would just kind of paint on location. But I like the idea of painting it for somebody like there.
Yeah.
Maybe next time Greg does one of those big Jesus things together, should do some kind of thing. Like,
yeah, that
write poetry art. Kind of be fun. I don't know.
Well, and we could invite some people from the different art communities or whatever to make it kind of like have a range with whatever the venue is, like maybe down the place I'm thinking about is down in that shopping center down by of course I'd have to be up there, which down here in Arizona. But point being is that wherever it was, I have to make sure that if we're going to have several people, that we're okay with whoever the shop are. But it is really kind of fun because it's and people really like it. It's like you start out and it's like give you a topic, so you say, what do you want me to write about? And then they tell you, then you weave this poem. I remember one down in Salt Lake, and I had a girl come up and say, write me a story about what was it? A poem about I can't remember now. But what came into my mind, this girl who takes boarding on this pirate ship as a what do they call that? A cabin boy. So she's pretending to be a boy, and it was kind of fun. It was like, and it turned out really good. And they were like, "Oh wow, that's really good. Thank you." Yeah, so it's kind of fun, and I actually like that because it helps me to let go of the perfection side of it and just kind of like, okay, I can't go back and change a line. It's just got to come how it comes, and that also determines what direction you go, because when you're not going back, it's like okay, I don't think I would have gone this direction, but I don't have a choice now. I have to go with what I just wrote. And so I don't know, it's fun.
When I write for my art, I actually do something fairly similar. I just write, I flip it over and I just write on the back. Or when I'm posting it online, I just start writing. And the only thought in my mind is what words are coming to me and how can I say it in as few words as possible? Or what thoughts? And usually it's like a one word phrase or one word even. And then I just let it go. And sometimes later I go back and work on them, but I kind of think there's something. I think sometimes I go back and rework because I'm worried that they're all the same. And I just cycle around the same thoughts. I'm a bit obsessive. I mean, obviously, I'm a bit obsessive. And I get really focused on like Jesus and things, and I always kind of have the same thoughts. And so it's, a lot of it has to do always with mental health. It always has to do with trying to find Jesus or trying to look for that hope. It has to do with teaching. It has to do with sharing. There's just always the kind of, like I said, the same type of things.
Mhm.
And so that's how I do like some of my like whenever I do like social media posts, it actually takes a lot out of me. And like it's not just I just sit down and just like spend 2 minutes. Like I spend a while on them. And that's why, and sometimes if I do it, I don't think of it ever till like late at night. And then but if I do it late at night, then I won't be able to sleep. So I'm always like stuck in this middle area. Because something about the middle of the night or early in the morning is like when my brain is like at a different phase. And it's like before it's caught up in the day, it's like it's not really twilight, but in my brain, it's like the brain twilight. This in between hour that's just it's that time to pause and just be in between. Greg, we're talking about doing like spontaneous art and poetry, how sometimes those things like you just start recording and you just start going for it, and kind of like your messy videos. And we're just talking about what kind of things come out and what kind of situations happen when you just kind of let go. And to coin like an overused phrase, let go and let God. But it's kind of like you just trust that the words come, and sometimes they're just really awkward and weird, and sometimes they're not. And how like there's this moment of it's almost, I think, like you have to be super focused. Like when I'm trying to do something at that moment, I'm not thinking of anything else besides like, okay, I'm just working on this painting, or I'm just trying to write this, or you're very much focused on what you need to do. Those are some of our thoughts.
Yep. Those are good thoughts. Yeah. You were talking about the repetition. I've noticed that, and others have noticed that when I do Jesus street preaching, and that's been good to bring to my attention, because you know who else repeats themselves? God. Like, oh, what's this? Another son you're going to send to the earth? Look at that. Jesus, can't you think of anything more interesting to send every day? Oh, there's the moon. Yep, we've seen the moon. How many times have we seen the moon? Oh, just repeat. Same stars. same whisper. You're working on my own these same sins. So the truth is that that repetition, though humans get tired of it, it's comforting. And so there's a tension of the opposites. We want variety in our lives, okay? Even food people do. But what do they do? 90% of the time they eat the same food, like the same breakfast. Okay, even people who are into food, they don't have like 10 different breakfasts that they frequently do. No, they may have 10 different breakfasts that they do, at least one of those every year or 10 years, but day in and day out, they're like everybody else. They're in Groundhog Day. And it's just like repeat. Well, they don't maybe repeat the same thing because there's some people just like, I do the same breakfast every day. They may have three, but lunches, because I actually did a study of this, tends to be five lunches, different lunches, dinners, 8. So if you 90% of the time that's what you're eating, perhaps for the rest of life. I mean, sometimes people go through a shift and they'll shift that little circle. So I wrote things about living in little circles, and the body, see, the mind's like, oh, I got to get out of here. But the body or the unconscious part of us knows that's a smart thing to do. You know, find something you like and just stay with it. Okay. Oh, but I want to be promiscuous. Same spouse. Oh my goodness, I should be waking up every day to a new person. And so they try that, but then it becomes routinized. Oh, it just seems like I'm picking up the same people at the bar. I mean, it's a different story. It's like I'm like a rock star. The people all look the same. I go from this station to that station, and so it doesn't matter how much money you got. There's repetition in life, themes and variations, and so yeah, that's my thought on that. And I've processed that because God wanted to put me at ease. He's like, yes, every human I give unto them weakness, and guess what they're going to be occupied with for the rest of their lives. Your issues don't go away, people. What happens is you learn to manage them. It feels like they've gone away, but it's still there. It actually becomes who you are, becomes expressed in different ways, maybe in a way that's actually people start liking. Anyhow, okay, so there's that. Any thoughts before I go on to spoons? All right.
No.
Okay.
I was
so-
gonna say, well, I was
Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say one thing. Sorry. I really like that idea, that repetition. I guess it's more normal than I thought. I feel like I'm definitely very repetitive, and I'm always looking for ways to reinvent or do things new. But I think there's something really comforting about that repetition. I also think that's why religion appeals to a lot of people, because that's the whole idea of repetition, and you know what to expect. There's not these surprises, there's not this unknown. And you know, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And then you've got like this whole, I guess, there, like I said, it's comforting. It's this whole, you can just kind of rest in the repetition. I would call that resting in repetition, right?
Yeah, it's
That would be
it's
cool.
no, that's true, and it's even for the people who just crave variety, they end up, when they do it well, they end up with repetition. It's called, for instance, the arc, the story arc. It's the hero's journey of Marvel, of Star Wars, of Lord of the Rings, of well, and of Christianity. It follows a certain pattern, and it's called the hero's journey, and it's just standard. And it's as though we're all human, and we tend to cycle similarly as humans. Okay, so these are the 2 spoons that Jesus had me make. You can see they're spoons in the rough, right there. They kind of look like Emily's pictures, metaphorically speaking. And I used my chainsaw to make these spoons. And then I put them on, I took nice pictures of them and stuck them on Facebook Marketplace, selling them for $20. They're still available for sale. So they're not going off the shelf. But so I've been selling in the name of Jesus for quite some time. That's how I sell everything. I'm not interested in selling stuff if I'm not doing it in the name of Jesus. And oftentimes I'll share reflections like what this means. At first, I got in trouble by saying Jesus made these, which I still think he did make them. But then Facebook had a talk with me. Literally had somebody call and say, "Well, somebody's complaining because you can't make claims. You're saying Jesus made these, but what evidence do you have?" I said, "Oh, Jesus made everything," and this person was Christian, and so it was great because then I realized, okay, I got to make a shift, and Jesus told me to. So now I say these whatever it is I'm selling remind me, so I can tell them what I believe this or I believe that. So I have to emphasize so I don't falsely advertise that Jesus made these spoons. All right, but so I've been doing this for I don't know, it's well over a year, and certain websites, in fact, especially the new Spanish Fork indoor yard sale, these guys have come to love hate me. So when I posted these, I'll read you some of the posts, but I'll read you my reflection as I posted these two spoons. These two brand new hardwood spoons, handcrafted by local artist Greg Muller, are tangible reminders that Jesus will bring forth, redeem Zion as he has other miracles, line upon line, precept upon precept, from alpha version Zion to beta version Zion, from prototype to incrementally better and better, from rough stone rolling to smooth operator, over time with patience, much. In fact, these two spoons are two small pieces of early Zion, actual Zion. Not only are they symbols of God's grace to grace redemption process, but they are actually kitchen utensils you can use daily. Bonus deal, these spoons are versatile. They come as a pair for a wise purpose. Some people use these handcrafted spoons as musical clappers. They make a nice sound. So, like that. Then I go on to explain Wikipedia says a clapper is a basic form of percussion instrument. It consists of two long, solid pieces of wood that are struck together, producing a sound, a straightforward instrument to produce and play. They exist in many forms in many different cultures around the world. Clappers can take a number of forms and be made of a wide variety of material. Wood is most common, but metal and ivory have also been used. So then here's some comments people gave me. Nikki says, Jesus was a carpenter. I'm pretty sure his spoons looked nothing like this. Another person responded to her, maybe he wasn't a good one. Ha ha ha. Somebody else says, there weren't reviews back then. It's wink. Good point. She replies back. And then April tells Crystal, did you need some spoons? So people will refer to other people, hey, check this out. And she says, yes, thank you so much. Lisa Bardsley says, I've missed his sell items. This is the first one I've seen in a while. Another person says, perfect. Another one says, I love the early days of Zion feel of these. Chainsaw carved spoon blanks. It reminds me of 17 Miracles when he carves an elephant with his pocket knife. Is this satire? IMFAO. And the person says, nope, this guy lives in my area. He's different, to say the least. Somebody else says, you said we need new spoons, and then they prompt their whoever they are. And then I also, when I take pictures, I'll so people can see what the size is, so I don't have to measure it. I'll put a chicken and rice can of soup, and I wrote a poem on there. It says the Campbell soup says chicken and rice, and I say in ink, Jesus is nice, don't think twice. So this person's referring to that. Chicken with rice, Jesus is nice, don't think twice, big smiles. Best thing I've seen all day. And let's see. Too bad they're left-handed spoon because I might buy them. And on and on. People go, some of it roasting. So some people actually get a little feisty. There's a woman that got feisty about it. And I just give them love. I say, oh, thank you for your opinion. Jesus would never sell stuff. I'm like, oh, in fact, yeah, Jesus had me captured though, because it keeps coming back. People saying, no, he would never sell stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding? So I've prepared this thing to respond to that. Cause I'm like, for the rest of my life, I'm going to get people saying that. And like, Jesus, what should I say? So he's been telling me, it's like, these people don't know Jesus. He requires so much. I mean, people would love to buy off Jesus. Hey, Jesus, can I give you $100? No, no, no. He's going to bring stuff to your life that you would gladly pay $10,000 to get out of. So Jesus requires way more than just money. Yes, money. Anyways, that's my take. I can't remember how I wrote it. And then this is the big spoon that I've been working on. This so we do firewood. So this is a log that I had. I looked at it. I said, I see a spoon inside there. So you can see it's a little rough looking. And there you go. I haven't put it on, but I've decided it's done. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna smooth it out and so forth. And I may sand on it just for fun. But yeah, it's pretty rough looking, like Emily's picture. You see that it's got a nick out of it, like, oh, dang it. And the thing is, as I'm making these, it's dangerous. It's like, don't try this at home. These are, I'm making this out of a chainsaw. Also the table saw, the stuff I'm doing, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have to be real careful. I've got this one tool that'll scrape this out, but it's wild. And so it's like I'm holding a snake. But anytime you're working with a chainsaw, you need to know it's like you're holding a snake. You have to be really aware and so forth. So Emily's is relatively safe what she's doing. Probably have to worry about what you snort or something like that. But yeah, the spoon becomes a thrill ride with the chainsaw, and but I liked it, and it's very rough, but you see where it connects. Oh, so this is the last part I wanted to say. So Jesus has been doing this thing with me to help me see what he's been doing with me, because I just been doing it naturally. It's kind of like Emily, like your art just starts popping out naturally. You weren't like this clinician. I'm gonna have, my goal is this, and my objective number one, number two. No, you just suffer, and this comes out of your suffering. Same thing with Jonathan's poems. That art sometimes just manifests. You're like, oh, what's coming out of me? And it just pops out, and like, yeah, that's done. And some people are like, well, it's not done, and so they'll trim it up and get it ready for show. So Jesus has me more on the emphasis of good to go. So there's two things right there, and they actually represents a paradigm in our society. It's a shifting paradigm, by the way. Ready for show is hugely important in U.S. Antichrist, all as well as Zion Babylon culture. It's very important that you have all these formal things and formal training, or at least you have to have a provenance that allows you to have rough stuff, because otherwise you need to have, when what's his name, Donny Osmond goes out at Vegas, he better not be singing off key. I mean, people have paid way too much money for one of those notes to go astray. Okay, they can maybe take one, but if he's off key, like every song, there's some off keyness that people can detect. Well, they want their money back. Donnie's not that good looking anymore. Whatever it is, they didn't get to see any nudity, and so the level of getting ready for show constrains one to a certain thing. I saw your hand, Jonathan. I'll turn it back over to you right now, in fact, so then I can come back with that thought. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Unless, of course, you embrace the offness of it. Of course, they haven't done this with music too much. I mean, there's some classical music that they call modern that's just horrible. You can't listen to it because most people listen to music for pleasure. But with art, they kind of, modern art is kind of that way. It's like, I'm going to throw stuff on the canvas and see what comes out. But there is kind of a methodology to it. There's a feel to it. Emily would know this better than me, but I was just listening to a guy because I was looking at taking a course in graphic design, and he was talking about, don't always snap to lines like in your program. It's like think through everything that you do, and most of the stuff he creates is really wild. But it's beautiful in its own way. It's like the first two spoons you had, I don't think I'd buy. because they're so rough.
Yeah.
You know? Then I was looking at that third one, the long one, and I was like, that looks really artistic. I mean, it's got big chips out of it and everything, and it's like normally if you carved spoons, you do with a carving knife and you do that, but it's like, that could really be a thing, Greg. I mean, it's like, you could one thing you could do is you could put that for auction. I mean, I don't know what you're going to sell that big one for, but you could just tell them, hey, I'll take the highest bidder, put it someplace where you auction it, and then see how much people, hand or not hand carved, chainsaw carved spoon, and people like the fact, and I don't know what it is about our times that we've come to like to see beauty in messes, but but we kind of have, and so that fits with our program, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to sell this one for $20. I'm going to make spoons. I think the rest of my life is what I had decided. I'll be cutting wood to heat my family's home for the rest of my life, and it becomes then this way for me to play as I'm doing it. Like, oh, that's a good piece. I'm just going to cut that. Like Emily's gathering gears, and it becomes like her play when she looks at bikes or broken bikes differently. Like, oh, I can take some of those parts, and it starts changing your world because you repurpose things. And yeah, it's just a junky bike, but oh, that's got a big sprocket on it. Oh, why? That's weird. Yeah, no one wants that because it's got a big sprocket. She says, I do, but not for the bike. She she takes all that stuff apart, throws the bike in the garbage, and grabs that big sprocket. Now she's got something that's valuable to her. And so what this is, oh yeah, because this is the part I was going to go towards. So Jesus has been revealing to me what he's been doing with me, because I've been in a sort of flow, and this is where Jonathan with his poetry certainly is. I've had to do it with my Jesus Street preaching. It's like let that spirit guide you, so that a lot of stuff time you don't know beforehand the things which you're doing. And so Jesus Street preaching has been that turn on the camera and like I'm on for an hour and 40 minutes. Are you kidding me? Who's going to watch this, Jesus? You are, Greg. So and who's going to buy that, Emily? Well, that's a Babylonian question. It's like um, the making of it becomes an expression of self that becomes important. Okay, so Jesus has been trying to show me, because my soul always craves like, what's going on here? What's going on here? You're like, okay, I know you're doing this thing, and I know I'm enjoying it, but what's going on here? And then Jesus has different explanations. Well, here's one that was recent. He said, you are art journaling, because he already told me that that's how I build my Jesus Greg world, is that it's essentially one huge journal, and that it's a collage, one huge collage. You guys are part of a collage, a Greg Muller Jesus Greg Muller collage, part of the world. And so it's in a collection of stuff. But art journaling, Jesus said, look up art journaling. So I did, because I needed to build that into my world. Actually, early on, when I go into my world and I look at it, it needs to remind me what's going on here. Like, oh, okay, this makes sense that we're using art to journal our lives. And then what he's showing me is everybody does that. Now, do you see it? I'm like, oh yeah, everybody does it. When they post to Facebook, they're taking certain themes, to borrow back to Emily's idea about these themes, and what they're posting is inside their soul. It's like, oh, Biden did this, Biden did that. Well, that's what's going on right now. So it's contemporaneous, but there's also some things that are solid, that they might give up politics at some point, but how they express themselves, you can trace it all the way back to when they were a little kid. I hate this. I hate this. And what is it? It's a mess, maybe, that how they react to messes. And people not doing what they should. You guys aren't doing what you should, or people doing nefarious things, whatever. But so God wanted me to have eyes to see everybody is an artist, and they're doing what you're doing, Greg. Are they making spoons? No, they're not making spoons. That's just what you're doing. But they're making posts and so forth. So it's and it's evolving. I've felt this growing for a while, but to be able to see that they are um, witnessing what's inside of them, and that's what the soul needs to do. It's like the spirit giveth utterance to groanings within us. Okay, so that's a scripture, and that scripture is very important for Jesus in this mess, because we have matter unorganized. We have thoughts, ideas, tensions, passions, and the spirit giveth utterance. So there's a Holy Spirit that's able to tell us what's inside of us and give it a name. If not a name, then a shape. And this shape, for me, is like, you want to see what's in my soul? Pretty rough, isn't it? And it just wants to stop there and say spoons and big spoon. And I allow it to. Like, why can't that just be a big spoon? This is a serving spoon, is what I'll call this one. And people can put stuff in it. They could sand it. I could, somebody wanted to repurpose it. Yeah, I'm going to get that spoon. Then I'm going to sand it, make it smooth. Well, good for them. That's their spoon now. Right now, it's Jesus's spoon. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I touched upon. Is journaling, art journaling, because that's what when I view Emily, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing parts of who Emily is, and she's explained it's not all of who she is, but it's an essential part, because she spoke of the anxiety and how this gives her some kind of peace. She's led to that, and so you can start seeing. Anyhow, there you go. I've got a conference coming up. You guys can go as long as you want. I've got 4 more minutes though. So any thoughts?
Well,
you
I
have
just
on
had a
that?
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
done.
have one.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone wanted to buy that spoon, how would we find it? Because
Oh,
I legit
yeah,
want to buy that spoon.
yeah. Just
So I was like, are you gonna post a link? Can you post a link on like this video or something to like where you have it, or
yeah.
like what do you got?
Oh, yeah. So my email address. That's always the best way to get me. Go Muller, GOMULLER @gmail.com. And then people can Venmo me. Go Muller is the GOMULLER if they want to donate to Jesus TV, or they want to purchase the spoon. That works till the IRS starts coming down on our necks with its 85,000 people. And they're recording this, by the way. So it's just a matter of time till they come and get us all. Anyhow, yeah, that's the best way, is just however you can reach out to me. Did you say you wanted that spoon, Emily?
I do want to buy it. So you said
Okay.
it was 25, right?
20. I said 20. Yeah, $20. I like 20. See, I'm gonna try not
I
to
know,
sell.
I know.
sell-
And I said 25.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
So it's 25.
if Jesus told you 25, that sounds good. Yep. Because Jesus has more.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep. It's a vintage spoon. At least the wood is vintage. 50 years or older. So that's also how I mess with people's mind, because vintage is one of their favorite things. So people think you're a great marketer. So I'm not even trying to do that. I've just tried to troll everybody and all this stuff about vintage. So I'll just call my stuff vintage wood.
Yeah, I actually think, Greg, it would be really cool to do a collaboration if we had a bunch of those spoons, and then I could do a big artwork with them or something. That
Yeah,
might be kind of fun.
that would
I'm just
be.
saying,
Yeah.
it'd be kind of fun to do some collaboration. Also, I would love to see a video of you making a spoon. Do you have a video of you making a spoon? Because I want to see one.
I will do this. The next time I do it, I'll have somebody record me. I'm doing it from log to this. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So
Because I would just love to see that, because I just
yeah.
I think seeing the creation process is what makes things
Well,
mean more.
and one of the things I like about this spoon is, like, if you have a really nice, let's call it sweet kitchen, and then you stick something in there like that, it's a nice accent. You know what I'm saying? Super rough. Everything in the kitchen's nice. So that's where I think it could sell. Is like people are like, I need an accent, something that when people come in, their eyes go right to it, like like little kids. What's the same? What's different? Well, the same is everything's just perfect in here except for that spoon. But that spoon's cool. So anyways, like a mole
Yeah.
on some some girl's face, like, oh, I don't know why I like that mole. Mole shouldn't be good looking, but Cindy Crawford had a mole, you know, and then other girls like, I'm gonna stick a fake mole on there, like something to look at. But
Yeah, I also with the spoon it would be really cool. So it actually reminds me of a salad spoon. But I need a big wooden bowl. Can you
oh,
chainsaw
yeah,
carve a bowl?
yeah, I was going to do that too. Yeah, in fact, that was the funny thing is one of these guys responded, and you know what he did? And I was like, oh man, I love that guy. He took a log and he said, "Behold, a bowl." He was looking at those spoons, you know, and he just stuck a chopped off log and he said, "Behold, a bull." And I just loved it. I put a love on that. I said, "You get it, don't you?" Because he does get it. It's like, um, you know, a bird, and you're like, "Behold, a house." That's just a bunch of sticks and mud. Yeah, that's right. Behold, you know, there's many different features I like of birdhouses, all the care and craft and so forth. But I like that they're free, and our society's got away from it. So, yeah. Well, no, thank you, Emily. I will get that to you. Yeah. I,
Okay,
yep. So,
I'll look
yep,
you up.
I will do that.
Unless somebody else buys it before me,
Yeah, well,
you
and
know.
that's the thing is I don't like to ship anything, but I'll ship it to you, of course. I did shipping like, oh man, I hate shipping. You of course you know that because you sell stuff, and it's like yeah, because it it's its own operation, you know, versus somebody coming by and getting something or me dropping something off. So
Yeah.
I may have my daughter drop this off so you can meet my daughter too. Um, Makes the shipping easier. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Or I might have to come get it.
But yeah, but I like the idea that you're talking about because that's I like the roughness. It actually is. It's a metaphor, a living metaphor for me for what I believe. Um, the coming new culture. We have to get used to it. It's going to look low. It's going to look rough, like Pong looked when Pong, that is internet gaming, came on. There's a computer gaming. Pong looks so stupid, just stupid, stupid. Even to the people using it, it's just like this block moving back and forth. But we got into it as kids because there was nothing else like it, like bong, bong, bong. And you got to start somewhere. And that's what, anyways, Jesus emphasizes that to my heart. If you're going to build a new utopian society, you have to start somewhere. And you have to ask yourself, how much are we going to divorce ourselves from our current society? And that's the mistake people are going to make. They're going to try to build upon a foundation. We have to start low. We have to start something new, fundamental. Anyways, that's my belief, and these spoons reinforce that that it's doable. That there was a time when that's probably what spoons look like um, for 500-600 years ago, and maybe even in the world today. So yeah, it's informative, just like your art is informative to my mind. Like, yeah, you can do stuff like that, and then you just call it Jesus. That's Jesus, like you said. Once it's got a beard, mustache, we're good to go. Like, I love it.
Yeah, you could totally. I want to see you carve a Jesus with a chainsaw. That's
Yeah.
actually that's one I want to see you do. And
Oh
also, do you need any wood? We have some wood
no.
from cutting down a tree. You got lots of wood?
Yeah, we got
Dang
lots of wood. Yeah, we got lots of
it.
wood. Yeah,
Wood's
but
not a problem. All
yeah,
right.
but if I get up that way, I'll take your wood too. Yeah. What kind of wood do you got?
I don't know. Random tree.
Random tree.
It's not a fruit tree.
I see.
So, and
Yeah.
it's not that big.
Yeah.
We just trimmed a tree. So
This
they're
is
not like really big logs.
this is American elm. It's a hardwood, and
Yeah.
so well. Speaking of performance
You better
arts,
get going, Greg.
yeah, I've got conference coming on now. Yep. So, should we end it, or do you guys want to carry on?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think we're good to end.